Hello there, welcome to today's lesson. We are going to look at formulas and relationship. We've been looking at equation in our lessons, in our previous lessons, and we looked at equations. We first described what an equation is, and we said that an equation is simply expressions on the two sides where you're having an equal sign in between the two expressions to indicate that the two expressions are of the same quantity. So we want to look at formulas, and before we go ahead and look at various formulas that we use, we'll have to understand what a formula is. And before looking at a formula, we need to understand the various terms. The first term that we have is the subject of the formula. So when you're talking about the subject of the formula, we are dealing with a parameter that is on the left-hand side that is standing on its own. For instance, if I have such like an equation, so if I have such like an equation, whatever is standing on its own on the left-hand side, then that is what we are referring to as the subject. So in this case, T is our subject of this given formula. Then, after knowing the subject of the formula, then from there we can now understand what a formula is. And we are simply saying that a formula is a formula or a rule. It is that equation, that unique equation that is used to show relationship between various terms. So a unique equation that is showing relationship between various variables, then that is what we are referring to as a formula or a rule. So we have various formulas that we are going to look at, and using the formulas we are going to solve the given equations in each and every situation that we've been given. To start with, these are some of the units that are used in measuring temperature. In Australia, the unit that is used to measure temperature is degrees Celsius. But in USA, they use the unit called degrees So we have degrees Celsius as a unit used in Australia. Then we have degrees Fahrenheit as a unit used in USA. There is a formula that is used to connect the two units of temperature. The formula that is used to connect these two units of temperature is given by F is equal to 9C over 5 plus 32. where F is is degrees Fahrenheit and C refers to degrees Celsius. So whenever you are given the temperature in any of the units, then it is possible to convert from one unit to another. For instance, if we are asked to convert the following, so we have the units in degrees Celsius and we need to convert them to degrees Fahrenheit. So using the formula that we have, it is showing the relationship between degrees Fahrenheit and the degrees Celsius, where the degrees Fahrenheit, which is our F, is our subject of formula. So using this relationship, we need to convert 10 degrees Celsius into degrees Fahrenheit. And we know that F is given by 9C over 5 plus 32. So using the formula, we can go ahead and convert. So starting with 10 degrees Celsius, so this means our value for C in that case is 10. So having value for C as 10, we substitute in the formula and get the value of F. So we are substituting so that our value for F will be given by 9C, but my C is 10, so that means 9 times 10 divided by 5, then plus 32. 5 into 5 once, 5 into 10, 2. So we have 9 times 2, which gives us 18, plus 32. So 18 plus 32 will give us 50. So we've converted 10 degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit. The second conversion is 0 degrees Celsius to degrees Fahrenheit. So our value for C in that case is 0. So value for C is 0. Then getting the value for F, that means that I will have 9 multiplied by C, and in that case C is 0, divided by 5 plus 32. So 9 times 0 gives us 0, divided by 5, that is 0. So I have 0 plus 32, and 0 plus 32 will give us 32. So 0 degrees Celsius is equivalent to 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Part C, we have 100 degrees Celsius. So 100 degrees Celsius converting to degrees Fahrenheit. Then our value for C is 100. So substituting in the formula, we will have 9 multiplied by 100 divided by 5 plus 32. 9 divided by, we are having 5 into 5 once, 5 into 100, that is 20. So we have 9 times 20, which gives us 180, then plus 32. 180 plus 32, that should give us 212. So 100 degrees Celsius into Fahrenheit is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Lastly, we have negative 50 degrees Celsius. We are converting it to degrees Fahrenheit. So this means that we have our value for C as negative 50. Then using the formula, we need to get the value for F. So our F will be obtained by 9 multiplied by negative 50 divided by 5, then plus 32. 5 into 5 once, 5 into negative 50, that is negative 10. So we have 9 times negative 10 gives us negative 90, then plus 32. Negative 90 plus 32 gives us negative 58. So negative 50 degrees into degrees Fahrenheit will be negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is one of the formulas that is showing the relationship between degrees Celsius and degrees Fahrenheit as units used to measure temperature. So with that, I believe we are now able to understand what we mean by the term formula. And a formula is simply whatever is bringing about relationship between various variables in an equation. So we are going to use various formulas to solve whatever we have in the equations. So let us apply the formulas. Apply various formulas in calculating the values of the unknown. So we have an example whereby we are applying a formula that is having two pronumerals. So the first rule that we have that we are considering is h is equal to 2m plus 1. So we have the formula h is 2m plus 1, and we need to use this formula to find the values of whatever we've been asked in our given equation. So the first point, we need to get the value of h if the value of m is equal to 3. So using the formula, our rule that we have, or the formula that we are using, the relationship that we have is h is equal to 2m plus 1. So having that rule, we need to get the value of our subject of the formula, which in that case is h, when the value of m in the equation is equal to 3. So this is the first part of our equation. When the value of m is equal to 3, what is our value of h? So we simply need to substitute in the equation for us to be in a position to get the value of h. So this means that h will be given by 2m. 2m simply means 2 multiplied by m, but our value for m is 3. So this means instead of m, I'm substituting it with 3, so that I have 2 multiplied by 3 plus 1. 2 multiplied by 3 gives us 6 plus 1. So 6 plus 1 will give us 7. So it means our value for h is 7 when our value for m is 3. So when m is 3, the value of h will be 7. So that is the first part, and using the first rule that we've been given. The second part of the equation, we need to get the value of h if our value for m is 4. Now our value for m is 4, and we need to get the value of h. We are simply substituting in the formula so that our value for m is 4. So that means that we will have 2 multiplied by 4 plus 1. And 2 multiplied by 4 gives us 8. Then plus 1. 8 plus 1 is 9. So it simply means our value for h will be 9 when our value for m is 4. So h will be equal to 9 when m is 4. The part C of our question, we need to get the value of m if the value of h is 17. So now we need to get the value of m when our value for h is 17. Earlier on, we learned about systematic way of solving equations. So when we need to solve our equations systematically, then it means I want to make m my subject of formula for me to be able to get the solution to the given equation. So making m the subject of the formula, then these are the various steps that you are going to use. The first step is getting the 1 from the right hand side to the left hand side. And for me to remove the 1 on the right hand side, then it means the first step that we take is subtracting 1 on both sides. So when we subtract 1 on both sides, this is what we obtain. We have h minus 1 will be equal to 2m plus 1 minus 1. 2m plus 1 minus 1, 1 minus 1 will give us 0. So it means we've gotten rid of the 1 on the right hand side, so that I'll have h minus 1 is equal to 2m. Then next, I need to get the value of m. The next step to be followed is dividing by 2 on both sides. So divide by 2 on the right hand side, divide by 2 on the left hand side. So this will mean the step will be h minus 1 divided by 2 will be equal to 2m divided by 2. So that means that 2 and 2 cancels out, so that whatever we have is h minus 1 divided by 2 is equal to m. Then we talked about equivalent equations, and with the equivalent equations are those equations whereby you can interchange whatever is on the right hand side and whatever is on the left hand side. So at this point, making m my subject of formula, I can interchange whatever is on the left hand side and whatever is on the right hand side, because the equations are equivalent. It is possible to interchange. So this means that m will be equal to h minus 1 divided by 2. So we've made our m the subject of the formula. After that, then we can go ahead and find the value of m given the value of h. So now that we already have this information, whatever we need is that final rule or equation that we've obtained, so that we can be able to solve the value of m. So the rule we've obtained, we are talking about m is equal to h minus 1 divided by 2. So from there, we solve our equation. We need to get the value of m if h is 17. So our h is 17. So we are substituting the point where we have h, we are substituting it with 17. So m will be given by h minus 1, our h is 17, minus 1 divided by 2. 17 minus 1 gives us 16, divided by 2 will mean that our value for m is equal to 8. So m is 8 when h is 17. The last part, we need to get the value of m when h is 21. So still the same procedure. Our h is now 21. So substituting in the equation, then it means that we have 21 minus 1 divided by 2. 21 minus 1 is 20, divided by 2 gives us the value of m as 10. So this is having a formula that is involving two pronumerals. So in this case, the pronumerals that we were dealing with is h and m. Those are the two pronumerals that we have in this formula. So this formula, or this relationship between m and h and m, is whatever we've used to solve the various equations that we've been asked to find. So that means that given any formula, it is possible to solve whatever equation you've been given, as long as you've been given the relationship between two pronumerals that are there in that given question. Then having one of the pronumeral, it means it is possible to solve the other value of the other given pronumeral. So another example, we are talking about a formula that we've been given, that is y is equal to 5 plus 3x, and we need to get the values of whatever we've been asked in the question. So the first point, we need to get the value of y if our value for x is 6. So our value for x is 6. We need to get the value of y from that given rule that we have. So our rule is y is equal to 5 plus 3x. Using this rule, we need to obtain the value of y when our value of x is 6. So that means we substitute the value of x, the x with 6 in our rule. So this means that where x is represented in the question, we substitute it with 6. So that will mean I have the value of y will be given by 5 plus 3x simply means 3 times x. So that will mean 3 times 6 because our value for x is 6. So that means that this is 5 plus 3 times 6 is 18. So 5 plus 18 gives us 23. So that means when our value for x is 6, the value for y is 23. Part B, we need to get the value of x if the value of y is 17. So I need to make my x the subject of the formula for me to be able to get its value. So we first make x the subject of the formula using the systematic way of solving the equations. So we have the equation y is 5 plus 3x. For me to get the value of, to remain with 3x on the right hand side, then the first step is subtracting 5 on both sides so that the equation will now be y minus 5 will be equal to 5 minus 5 plus 3x. We've subtracted 5 on both sides. After subtracting 5 on both sides, we discover that on the right hand side, 5 minus 5 will give us 0. So it means we will be left with y minus 5 on the left hand side. On the right hand side, the expression that is left is 3x. So we have y minus 5 will be equal to 3x. I've not yet made my x the subject of the formula, so the next step is dividing by 3 on both sides. So divide by 3, divide by 3. When we divide by 3, then it means I'll have y minus 5 divided by 3 will be equal to 3x divided by 3. So this means that the solution will come to y minus 5 divided by 3, 3x divided by 3, so the 3 cancels out, so that we are left with x. From there, we can interchange our right hand side. We can swap whatever is on the right hand side with whatever is on the left hand side, so that our value for x is given by y minus 5 over 3. So we've made our x the subject of the formula. After making x the subject of the formula, then we can now go ahead and get the value of x in the situations we've been given. So we have the formula x is equal to y minus 5 divided by 3. So we need to get the value of x when the value of y is 17. So that means that we will have x will be given by substituting y with 17 will mean that I have 17 minus 5 divided by 3. 17 minus 5 gives us 12 divided by 3. So 12 divided by 3 gives us 4. So it means that when y is 17, the value of x is 4. Next, we need to get the value of x when the value of y is 26. So we are still using the same formula. So we find the value of x when the value of y is 26. So we have 26 minus 5 divided by 3. So 26 minus 5 gives us 21 divided by 3, and 21 divided by 3 is 7. So the value of x when y is 26, then the value of x is 7 from our calculation. So those are just examples of formulas that are involving two pronumerals. So let us move on and find out. Supposing we are having formulas that are involving three pronumerals, how do we go about and solve the given equation? So we have the rule that we need to consider, that is A is equal to Q plus T. So the pronumerals in this case, we have A, we have Q, and we have T as the pronumerals. So we find that we have three pronumerals. So considering this equation, what are we supposed to do? We find the value of the following. So we find A when Q is 3 and T is 4. So we've been given the value of Q and T, and we need to get the value of A. So what do? For us to get the value of A, we are using the formula. A is given by Q plus T. We've been given the value of Q and we've been given the value of T. So that means to get the value of A, simply substitute in the values of Q and T. And the value of Q is 3. The value of T is 4. So A is Q plus T. That means that is 3 plus 4. 3 plus 4 gives us 7. So the value of A will be equal to 7. Part B, we need to get the value of Q So we get the value of Q if A is 5 and T is 1. So the equation we have is A is equal to Q plus T. We need to get the value of Q, so that means I need to make my Q the subject of formula. For us to make Q the subject of formula, we only have the following step. I need to remove the T. That will be removed by simply subtracting T on both sides, so that we will have A minus T is equal to Q. Then the left-hand side and the right-hand side can be interchanged, so that we have Q will be given by A minus T. Then solving our equation, we need the value of Q when A is 5 and T is 1. So A is 5, T is 1. That means that we substitute in the rule that we've just made, so that our Q is A minus T, and our value for A is 5, value for T is 1. So 5 minus 1 gives us 4. So the value of Q is 4 when A is 5 and T is 1. Next, we need to get the value of T. So we get the value of T when A is 3 and Q is 3. So using the rule that we have, our rule is A is given by Q minus T. Q plus T. So that means that for us to get the value of T, then it means we have to make T the subject of the formula. And that means that I subtract Q on both sides. So subtract Q on the left-hand side, subtract Q on the right-hand side, so that we will have A minus Q will be equal to Q minus Q plus T. Q minus Q is 0, so that means we are left with A minus Q is equal to T. We can interchange whatever is on the right-hand side with what is on the left-hand side, so that T will be given by A minus Q. Then from there, we've been given the values of A and Q. So having the values of A and Q, we can substitute in this equation so that we get the value of A. Our A is given by our T is given by A minus Q, and the value of A is 3, the value of Q is 3, so that means I have 3 minus 3, and 3 minus 3 is 0. So the value of T is 0 when A is 3 and Q is 3. So that gives us the value of T as 0. So that is one of the examples that is involving a formula that has 3 pronumerals. We can look at a second example that has 3 pronumerals and a formula with 3 pronumerals. So we have the formula G is equal to 7x plus 2y. What are our pronumerals in this formula? We have G, we have x, and we have y. So those are 3 pronumerals in that given formula. So we need to find the value of g when x is 3 and y is 3. So we are substituting in that given formula so that we have g is given by 7x plus 2y. So substituting x with 3 and y with 3 means that our value for g will be obtained by 7 times 3 plus 2 times 3. So when we multiply, we get that 7 multiplied by 3 is 21, and 2 multiplied by 3 is 6. So 21 plus 6 will give us 27. So it means the value of g will be 27 when the value of x is 3 and the value of y is 3. So solving, we simply substitute in our formula and get the value of the unknown. Part B, we need to get the value of x if y is 2 and g is 11. So our value for x if y is equal to 2 and g is equal to 11. So we have the equation g is 7x plus 2y. So we need to make our x the subject of the formula. The first step, subtract 2y on both sides. So we are subtracting 2y on both sides so that we will have g minus 2y is equal to 7x plus 2y minus 2y. So that 2y minus 2y gives us 0. We are left with g minus 2y is equal to 7x. So for us to get the value of x, then it means the next step we have is divide by 7 on both sides. We are dividing by 7 on both sides so that we have g minus 2y divided by 7 will be equal to x. So we can interchange our right hand side with our left hand side so that x is given by g minus 2y divided by 7. So the expression that we wanted, or the equation that the rule that we are looking for is where x is our subject of formula, which is x is equal to g minus 2y. So using the formula x is equal to g minus 2y divided by 7, we need to get the value of x when y is 2 and g is 11. So that means that I substitute in my formula so that g is 11, so I'll have 11 minus 2y. 2y means 2 times the value of y, and our value for y is 2. So this means it's 2 times 2 divided by 7. So 2 times 2 gives us 4. So this means that we have 11 minus 4, and 11 minus 4 is 7. So we have 7 over 7, and 7 divided by 7 is 1. So the value of x is equal to 1 when y is 2 and g is 11. Next, we need to get the value of y. Find the value of y in this equation. So our value for x is 3, our value for g is 31, and we need to get the value of y in that given formula. So our formula is g is equal to 7x plus 2y. So I need to make y the subject of the formula. So first step, subtract 7x on both sides. So we are subtracting 7x. That means that we will have g minus 7x will be equal to 7x minus 7x, that is 0. So I'm left with 2y on the right hand side. So that the next step will be dividing by 2 on both sides. So divide by 2 on the left hand side and on the right hand side. So that we have g minus 7x over 2 will be equal to y. So interchanging whatever is on the left hand side and what is on the right hand side, we have y is equal to g minus 7x divided by 2. So we need to get the value of y when g is 31 and x is 3. So having that, g is 31, so that means that 31 minus 7x, our x is 3, so that is 7 times 3, then divide by 2. 7 multiplied by 3 gives us 21. So we have 31 minus 21, and 31 minus 21 will give us 10 divided by 2. So 10 divided by 2 gives us 5. So the value of y is equal to 5. When our value for g is 31 and x is 3, our value for y is 5. So we've looked at the two situations whereby we are having formulas that have 2 pronumerals, and the other situation was a formula that has 3 pronumerals. Remember, we are defining a formula as a rule that is connecting 2 or more pronumerals with one of it as the subject of the formula. So we must have a subject of the formula, and we must have 2 or more pronumerals that are being connected in that given equation. So with that, let us just find out, do we understand by whatever we mean by the term formulas or not? And that will simply be answered using this question. So we have 2x plus 5 is equal to 10. We need to state whether it is a rule or not. Is it a formula or not a formula? So the first thing is, we said that a formula should be having two or more pronumerals that have been connected with one of it as the subject of the formula. First, let us look at this. How many pronumerals does it have? So we find out that it only has one pronumeral. And having only one pronumeral, then what does it mean? Do we have a subject of the formula in this equation? No. Our subject of the formula is not there. So it is possible to make a subject of formula, but in this case, in that given equation, we do not have a subject of formula. We only have one pronumeral, so there are no two or more pronumerals that are being connected, which means that this is not a rule. It is just an equation, but not a rule, because it is not connecting two or more pronumerals. The second one, we have y is equal to 3x plus 5. We need to identify, is it a rule or not? So first, let us find out how many pronumerals are there in this given rule that we are talking, or in this given equation. So we have two pronumerals. Which are our pronumerals? We are talking about y and x. We have the two pronumerals, that is y and x. So having the two pronumerals, what is our subject of formula in this given equation? Our subject of formula is y. So that means that this equation qualifies to be called a rule because it has two pronumerals and one of it is a subject of the equation and the subject of the equation is y. It has two pronumerals that are being connected, so that means that this equation is a rule. The next equation, we have f is equal to ma. So having f is equal to ma, how many pronumerals do we have in this given equation? And we find out that we have three pronumerals. We have f, we have m, we have a as the pronumerals that are present in this given equation. What is our subject of formula in the equation? The subject of formula in this equation is f. So having f as the subject of formula and three pronumerals, that means it has more than two pronumerals that are being connected, then it means that this equation qualifies to be called a rule because it is connecting more than two pronumerals and we have a subject of formula. Next, we have 5 minus q is equal to 3. And we need to find out, is it a formula or not? So being the fact that we only have one pronumeral, so it is only one pronumeral, which is q. That means that this is not a rule because it only has one pronumeral and we do not have a subject of formula in that given equation. So that means that we do not have a rule in this given equation. It is just an equation, but it is not a rule because it is not connecting two or more pronumerals. It only has one pronumeral. We have W is equal to 12 minus V. How many pronumerals do we have? We have two pronumerals, that is W and V. Then what is our subject of formula in this equation? The subject of formula, we discover that we have W. We said that a subject of formula is whatever is standing on its own on the left hand side, and we discover that W is what is standing on its own. So this means that the equation that we have, W is equal to 12 minus V, is a rule because it has two pronumerals that are connected in that given equation, and we have a subject of formula. Finally, we have P is equal to one plus K minus 3. So we ask ourselves, how many pronumerals do we have? And we discover that we have two pronumerals, and these two pronumerals are P and K. Do we have a subject of formula? Yes. Our subject of formula in this case, whatever is on the left-hand side on its own, is P. So having P as our subject of formula and having two pronumerals in this given equation, then it simply means that this equation qualifies to be called a rule. So in conclusion, we are simply saying that a subject of formula is whatever is standing on the left-hand side on its own, and a rule or a formula is a subject of formula is what is standing on the left-hand side on its own. For instance, in this question, we have P. Then a rule or a formula is an equation that has two or more pronumerals that are being connected, and one of the pronumerals is as a subject of the formula. So whenever you are looking at any given equation, it is possible to find out, is it a rule or not? And if it is a rule, given various values of the given pronumeral, some of the pronumerals in the equation, then you can use the substitution of those given pronumerals to get the solution of whatever that you are being asked to find in the given equation. So that is all we've been able to look at today. Thank you for listening.